Ooh, all right. Let's see. Use absence to increase respect. This starts off with a quote from Napoleon. If I'm often seen at the theater, people will cease to notice me. Yep. Today, in a world inundated with presence through the flood of images, the game of withdrawal is powerful. We rarely know when to withdraw anymore, and nothing seems private, so we're awed by anyone who is able to disappear by choice. In the science of economics, the law of scarcity gives us this truth. Too much circulation makes the price go down, but by withdrawing something from the market, you create instant value. In 7th century Holland, the upper class wanted to make the tulip, that's cute, more than just a beautiful flower. They wanted to make it a kind of status symbol. Making the flower scarce, indeed almost impossible to obtain, they sparked what was later called tulip mania. A single flower was now worth more than its weight in gold. Extend the law of scarcity to your own skills. Make what you are offering the world rare and hard to find, and you instantly increase its value. Daily law: the more you are seen and heard from, the more common you appear. If you are already established in a group, temporarily withdraw from it, and that will make you talked about, even more admired. You must learn when to leave. Create value through scarcity. Yeah, that's definitely the opposite of what social media would have you believe. Yeah, like the whole idea of going like viral and being seen everywhere and just flooding the whole digital landscape with your image. That's like the opposite. I've always kind of thought about that, to be honest, on my own. Like I didn't really. Right, things that are the most valuable are the most rare. Right, like if gold was lying around everywhere, it'd be worthless. It's useful. I think that's what its most important characteristic is, that it ultimately makes it valuable. Other than it being, a rare looking metal, it's a very useful metal. All forms of high end electronics use gold in their circuitry, so it's more than just like a look, like a tulip in that example it's just a flower. It's a beautiful plant, which there's no real use in terms of its value. Gold's kind of a different example. There's actually things that they didn't know back in the day, obviously, but there's actually things you can do with gold. So there's that. So that when you apply that to a person, the example makes much more sense. The ability to disappear. I like that. I could do that. I can do that at the snap of a finger. That's the advantage of having the experience I had. Having my little camping adventure. Well, alrighty. I guess it's time to go. Let's go to work. Oh wait, where's my garage door opener? I'm having to reach for this later. Yeah, artificial scarcity. I often wonder if that's the game they play. They don't even have to play the scarcity game when it comes to, I was going to say like gas prices. But really, it's just Those prices move around anyways, even without like the conflict that's taking place right now over there in that area. It's just now it's like it's swung to an extreme, and they're probably using that as an excuse. Yep. Let's see what else. I was listening to a good Joe Rogan. It was an MMA episode. All the talk was nothing but like mixed martial arts, UFC, and all that stuff. And I mentioned to my woman, they kind of should, if I was Dana White, just to expand the brand of UFC, because they already have the MMA division where it's everything, right? All martial arts mixed together. That's obviously what MMA stands for. But they should also have like a UFC strike division, which is all striking, and a UFC grapple division, obviously all forms of grappling, to make that little triangle complete, the iron triangle. Because it would be interesting, really, because they started talking about like different fighters and how they specialize in different, like Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's like a grappling specialist. Obviously, he can strike, but his specialty was all things grappling. That dude was undefeated, and he's coaching now, I guess, training. And that's when I was like, man, that should actually just have like, I would be super interested in watching. You know, I know a lot of people just like the whole mixed martial arts aspect of it, but you know, let's specialize now. You've got the full brand. Let's break the brand down into its primary components: striking and grappling. I mean, if anything, you're gonna get more. You're gonna get more eyeballs wanting to see something like that. I would think. I don't know. That's just me. Because then you have like the opportunity to have like, now you would have 3 different belts for 3 different categories of UFC. And now the chase would be to see who could hold all 3 belts. I think that would open up a lot of opportunity for brand promotion in terms of like, just trying to expand the brand. It's already the number 1 brand in terms of MMA. There are other brands of mixed martial arts out there that people probably don't even know about. They probably don't even know about Bellator, and I think there's one called like ONE FC. I think there's one called, and I know there's more, but I'm not even like aware of all the other ones. It's just everybody just knows UFC pretty much. But that's what I would do if I owned UFC. I would try to completely own the landscape of fighting in terms of this is the only one you want, and this is the only one you will hear about. And it would be interesting to see. Let's just see. And then you would give these fighters more opportunities. To be known. Like, okay, they won the UFC world title or whatever they call it. Let's see if you can win the belt in UFC Strike or UFC Grapple. That's what I would call them. I think that sounds kind of cool. UFC Strike. And then in my mind, it'd be funny if they called it UFC Hit and UFC Hold. It was basically what those two were. What Strike and Grapple would amount to: hitting and holding. And obviously, the MMA belt would be the crown jewel. But like I said, it would be kind of cool to have these other belts. He's doing some road work. They did some road work on these lanes, and they made it so uneven. It doesn't even feel safe at 65 miles an hour going over what they did. It's all wonky, for lack of a better word. I wonder when this freeway was constructed. I know my family, because they're in construction, and when it comes to like dump truck, 10-wheeler driving, I believe they were part of this construction, like long to like my grandfather at least. I hate how I allowed myself to be pressured into going into that business. I mean, I guess it played some sort of role in my life, but that was a much different me, though. Like, had I been who I am now, I would have stood very firm in my absolutely not. You can take that idea and go fuck off with that. But I was a very weak person back then. I was a completely different person back then. That's why I'm glad I had my changing of the reel, the switch over. I had my Fight Club moment. That's still one of my favorite movies. That's great. Let's see, what else? I don't know. It's a pleasant drive so far. What is today? Tuesday? I'm looking at my gas to see where. I can make it the rest of the week. I think I've been pretty gentle on the gas pedal. I don't know why. It's like just below a quarter of a tank down. Like just below 3/4 of a tank, I guess would be the accurate way to say it. Then again, I am going a little faster than 65. So who knows? Let's have more drink. I had a bunch of weird dreams again. And did I take melatonin? I don't think I took melatonin. A whole bunch of weird stuff. I'm trying to remember. I even woke right up, like I had woken up wondering if I had to use the restroom real quick. And then I was wondering, like, oh, I wonder what time it is. I normally don't look because I don't want to know. Whenever that alarm goes off, that's what time it is. So I laid back down and kind of like thinking to myself about what time it might be and how much time I might have more to sleep. I must have drifted off in the middle of that thought and had another dream. Then my alarm went off right away, and then that dream faded real quick. My mind had no time to try to even form a memory of that one. I wonder if my inability to remember dreams has been affected by like my low memory issue to begin with. I don't know. It's a good question. I didn't think about that until right now. But it seemed like my short-term memory was the most affected by it. My long-term memory is fine. Well, it's fine as it can be, I guess. But my short-term memory had seemed to be the most affected by what happened. And it was like, if I didn't set something down, like say my car keys, if I put them in a different spot than I normally put them in, then I'll forget right away. That's why I became real habitual with like where I put things, or like even like where I park my car when I go places. or at least like I have to make a concerted effort to be like, okay, you parked right here. Remember, you're parked right here. Here is where you parked. Rather than just pulling in, parking, and just going about my business, and just being able to remember like easily that that's where I parked. Something like that. I got into a big, not a big, but like a pretty extensive, I don't want to call it a debate, but it was really like I guess it could be a debate about like free will. It didn't even start off that way. Really, what it started off with was because my dad has a real, how do I put this? My dad has like a real negative, like black pilled concept of how God sees the world. And I guess that's just how he learned it from where he went to church. I guess. I don't know. But I was like, but you know, the most, what I told him is like the most known Bible verse in the world is John 3:16. And that verse starts out with, "For God so loved the world." Like it says it right there. And he tries to like, he was trying to tell me, like, well, you know, it doesn't mean the world. It just means the people, you know, his believers. I'm like, but that's not what it says. It says the world. And he was trying to explain to me, you know, like in all these different ways of like that's how it's been interpreted. It has been interpreted as not meaning that. I'm like, but now you're adding things where there isn't. Like it even says in the Bible not to do that. It says not to add or take away from this book. And interpreting what it says and any differently than actually what it says is that's adding things that aren't there. I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. I even looked up the original, like the original word. You know, the whole book of John, most of the Bible actually was written in Greek. That's the original language. And for that particular verse, the word world, the actual word in Greek that's used is cosmos. That means everything, like the universe, the stars, that's everything. Everything that's contained within it. And I even told him, like, even in Genesis, like after each day of creation, after everything he created, it says, you know, God looked at what he created, and he said it was good. And then on the sixth day, after he created humans, it even ups it a level. It says God looked at what he created and said that it is very good. And then my dad kind of started to, like, I think he couldn't get out of what I was saying. He couldn't get out from underneath it because, I mean, I was using the literal verses in the Bible to as the basis of what I was trying to say. I'm like, I'm not using interpretation. I'm using the exact verses. This is exact wordage. And then he started to talk about like the sinful nature of man, and he started to morph it more into like that kind of conversation. I'm like, well, that's because God gave us free will. And he jumped right on top of that because there's no such concept. That phrase isn't used in the Bible. It's talked about, but it doesn't use those exact words. But I was trying to tell him, it's like, well, if God didn't give us the ability to sin, you know, to disobey, you know, to go counter to what his commands were, well then, you know, that we're nothing, right? We're just We're just like automatons. We're just robots that are programmed to just only obey, and that's not freedom. Like, the whole basis of being able to sin is the whole foundation from which freedom, an idea of freedom, is formed on. And God gave us that. I told my dad, I think that's a beautiful gift to be given. But my dad's more the type of person that like just focuses on like the sheer negative, like, oh, all man is evil. All right. Like, there's no hope in you. If that's what you want, I guess it helps him, if it helps him to see it that way, I guess. But that's a very morbid way to look at life. But some people need that, I guess. I guess that makes him feel special. I don't know. That he's like not one of the sinners in the world. And I think what it is, though, I don't even think it's like a sinful nature. It's like if you go back to the very first humans, right? If you just strictly stay with biblical teachings, Adam and Eve, the very first humans, I think that says something like, the only command that they were given, really, in terms of what not to do, was to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And I think it says something like, for if you do, you will surely die. And I think what that means, and this is me interpreting now, because obviously it wasn't a physical death that they had. So obviously he didn't mean that. I'm just going by like the obvious result from eating the fruit wasn't physical death. It wasn't like it was poisoned in a way that would physically kill them. So that he didn't mean that way. But how you have to take it then? Why would he say you would die? Well, I think what he meant is like the innocence of mind, like the purity of mind would die by knowing what is good and what is bad. Like your pure mind, your pure consciousness will never be the same. That is a death of sorts, right? Because you cease to be who you were, and now you are somebody else. That is a death, just like what I went through. It's really what it is it's an ego death. Because once you know right from wrong, good from evil, before, if you don't know that, there's like no accountability. Well, you don't know. You didn't know any better. How can you be responsible for the results of you not knowing? But now you know. So now you have to deal with the consequences of that. And that is a death of sorts. It's like a threshold that you've now stepped through that you can't step back through. So I think like moments like that, in verses like that, there can be some interpretation just based on the results and the evidence that is there. But that's different from like completely interpreting the word world to only mean one specific thing. Like the word, even the Greek word cosmos, that's even bigger than the word world. So when you think of the world, you think of just the earth. But the word cosmos means everything, the whole, everything. But once my dad like changed the whole like subject of the, kind of like sidetracked it into a debate over free will and whether or not humans have free will. I was like, I don't even really necessarily. I gave him some grief about that, just because I don't necessarily disagree, but I was like, whatever. I don't. This is not even where the conversation was, and now you're taking it a completely different way. Shit. Does this mean I need to go down there, guys? Oh no. Oh, they have my lane closed. All right. Well, what do I do? Or not? Let's see. Is it open? Okay, it's open. Yay! I was gonna get nervous. Cool. I hate when they shut down my lane because then I don't know the area up ahead, and the exit I have to get off on has these weird turnabouts, like these weird intersections. It's strange. It's not so easy to get back on the freeway to come this way. So, excuse me. But thankfully I didn't have to do that. Normally if I would have had to shut my video down and fire open my maps. Wow, it's really foggy out here. I don't know if you can see it like through the window right there. But it's like really foggy. I think you can kind of see it, yeah. See that? That's pretty wild. I don't think it normally looks like this. In the video, anyway. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, I have a very different outlook on what this whole experience is in terms of how God might see it. Even all the evil, or the perceived evil. There's a reason for all of it. And I think it kind of has to be here. That's how I see it. To be honest, I think my dad's done some things that he really needs to. I think the evil he sees in the world is the evil he sees in himself. If I wanted to go like real deep and psychoanalyze the whole situation, I think that's what's going on. Because there's one story in particular that I think he hasn't fully accounted for. I mean, I know he's asked for forgiveness for it, but that was pretty bad one. I'll tell that story a different time. All right. I am here and I'm ready to go. Go to work.